Happy New Year, cult members and Whovians, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
This is going to be our, we're going to start off with no spoilers, and then we're going to go into full spoilers review, reaction of the Revolution of the Daleks.
Okay.
So just that everybody knows, we'll do a little bit of like general, like what we thought about the episode, and then we'll have to go into some details, because some poo happened.
Yes.
So overall, just overall thoughts, non-spoiler. What did you think of this episode?
It felt very much more Doctor Who. And okay, non-spoiler. So I was thinking about whether it was because of some, well, okay, everybody knows Jack is in this one.
Jack's back, yeah.
That was very widely publicized. There are some other Easter eggs that I was trying to decide if it was because of those things or just the story, and it was mostly the story. There were some.
The Easter eggs are nice little toppings on that.
Yeah.
That Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Story arc. Yeah.
There's one scene, which I don't really feel like it's a spoiler, of the TARDIS in space, and the door is open. Very much something that David Tennant and Matt Smith did. So it was just kind of that
Capaldi
stuff.
did it a couple times too with Clara and
Yeah.
stuff.
And when that happened, I was like, yeah, we haven't gotten this kind of more in space.
That every time they moved the TARDIS and it materialized on screen.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the noise off screen and it showed up on screen.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this has that feel.
Yeah.
We have talked about, we've done episode by episode reviews of the last season, the season 12 and season 11 series. Sorry, it's the UK. Series 12 and series 11. And 11, as much as we loved Jodie as the Doctor, as the 13th Doctor, it was poorly written. And it was super heavy-handed on we're trying to promote this political agenda.
Right.
And that's been widely talked about everywhere. I didn't take offense to it, but it took away a lot of the enjoyment for me for Doctor Who.
Yeah, and you talked about it multiple times.
Like, stop banging me over the head that we're doing, look at how cool we are that we're doing politically correct stuff. And it's like, you can do that. You can have, the reason I'm getting there is because it happens in this episode, that you can have that kind of conversation, but not slam us in the face.
Right.
Which is what Series 12 did. We're going to talk about heavy stuff. And
11. Series 11.
Series 11 did that. Series 12 did it, but didn't do it without, like, not punch us in the face with it.
Right.
Capaldi has one of my favorite seasons, one of my favorite runs, arcs, is the Zygote Invasion. And Capaldi does a 5-minute monologue about war.
Yeah.
And that episode is when I fell in love with Capaldi as the Doctor. But it wasn't, like, here it is. Here's what we're talking about. But we're not smashing you in the face with it.
Right.
This episode, multiple times, talked about things that are going on, specifically for the UK, but overall, about security and security for people and a little bit more of a conservative view of the world and nationalism and Brexit and stuff like that. But they didn't slap you in the face with it.
Right.
Because they wrapped it up in the Daleks.
Right.
And the use of the Daleks. And that is how you do it.
That's always been Doctor Who. I mean, they've always
from jump.
Yeah,
it's been like that.
Yeah, they've made social commentary, but wrapped up or disguised in this.
And that's when sci-fi is its best.
Right. Yeah.
Is that it's dealing with issues of the day wrapped up in a cool wrapper.
Right.
And that's why we fell in love with Doctor Who. That's why we fell in love with Star Trek. That's why we fell in love with the MCU and like dealing with like a lot of those kind of subjects.
Yeah.
But we're still getting that escapism. This was escapism. Like hour and 45 minutes here in the States because we have 7,000 commercials on the BBC America. I'm not upset, get paid, but just overall, I got done and we're kind of set up to record, and I'm like, I really loved this episode.
Yeah.
I really love this episode.
Yeah, and like I said, I was like, okay. I took a break for a minute, kind of in the middle, and I was like, okay, why am I liking this episode so much?
I did the same thing.
Because I wanted to step back and go, is it...
We both went on a pee break at one of the commercials and went in different bathrooms, and I think that's when we were having the same conversation.
Probably too much information.
Whatever.
But, yeah, I was like, is it because of this, and this, or is it something else? And it was... I really feel like it was both, which is fine.
Yeah. And that's we're gonna get into spoilers here in a second, but I think that having that older feel of the flow and the subject matter and the topic and everything going on, and then you're throwing in little Easter eggs and little hints and little comments and little lines and characters and stuff like that really made me oh yeah, I'm at home hanging out with my friends in the TARDIS, and that was it was nice.
There was some. Are we gonna save Easter eggs for the spoilers?
We're gonna do spoilers now because we have talked around everything that happens as much as we can. So with spoilers on from here on out, and there's gonna be a ton. When we started this, I said this can't be a 45-minute episode. It might be a 45-minute episode. So spoilers. Thank you for watching. Click the like button, subscribe, and work like spoilers. Okay, go.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna talk about some of the Easter eggs. Jack at the end saying, I gotta go see somebody.
I gotta go see Gwen.
Well, no, he said I gotta go see somebody, and she said, "Say hi to Gwen for me."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Can we get Gwen? Can we see her?"
Yeah.
And then Jack saying that he was from I can't remember the name of the
Bohemian Peninsula or something like that.
Yeah, the Bay of whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, the face of Bo.
There was also a couple of visual references that they specifically showed people in the episode who looked like other people from the show. So Mr. Pink, there was a guy who looked like Danny Pink. Which I thought was kind of interesting because they kind of show him over the shoulder a little bit, and you're looking and it's like, is that Danny Pink?
Yeah.
And
it's weird because...
And he looks a lot like him.
Yeah. One of the characteristics for Danny was the fact that he had such long eyelashes for a guy.
Yeah.
And then, that kind of side view, and you see the long eyelashes, and you're like, oh my God.
It wasn't until they were full on his face. I'm like, it's not him.
No.
But they did that multiple times. And I think that was by design. Knowing that Jack was back and coming to find out later what happens with Graham and Ryan. That whole kind of flashing back to maybe characters that you thought could possibly I almost wanted to say halfway through the episode, is somebody else going to show up?
Yeah.
Is that going to be the big reveal that we got Jack? And then the big reveal is going to be that somebody else is going to show up.
Yeah.
Another. And there was a conversation about Rose. There was a conversation about, so there was so there was all these little Easter eggs and things, and they directly referenced other episodes from Jodie's arc. Mm-hmm. We got Jack Robertson back as the kind of the evil corporate CEO, could be maybe Trumpish guy. And they talked about the spiders. They got the actual organic thing inside the Daleks, the actual Dalek organic thingy. They did that last season on the New Year's special. It actually just started running, and I happened to catch it. Oh yeah, that was that episode.
Yeah.
Where Dalek had gotten free outside of its case and took over somebody. So that was a kind of a reference. So they were referencing the old series, and they were also referencing their own within Jodie. And so you have all of that connective stuff. Oh, by the way, the Daleks are back and they're trying to take over. And
and you have the silence and the weeping angels and I don't know what that other thing was.
I can't remember what the episode that was from. Like one of the first episodes, when Jodie just took over. So right at the beginning of
It wasn't
series
the
11.
Amazon one, was
No,
it?
I don't remember, but it was eating everything. Like it kept eating, a spaceship apart and something. Maybe that wasn't Jodie. I cannot remember the episode. It's always one of those ones where you're like, oh yeah, it's that one. Let's skip it and go to the one.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Like it's one of
Yeah.
those. The silence, the angels. There was an Ood.
Oh yeah, the Ood.
Bonnie and Clyde Oods
Yeah.
in the prison. I had speculated that Jack would be the one who kind of got into the prison and then broke her out.
Yeah.
And that's it made the most story sense. That's how you can bring Jack back, and have him be there. Having John Borman in the show makes my heart happy.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if I need him there all the time because his character at this point in time is outside the scope, and that was actually a really fun scene with Jack and Yaz about eventually the doctor. You either leave the doctor or the doctor leaves you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so at this point in time in Jack's life cycle, he's left the doctor behind. And now if he pops in occasionally to help with breaking her out of prison or whatever, like that, I would love to see that.
Yeah. Yes. Kind of like River, right? Just when you've forgotten about them and then all of a sudden they pop in to save the day or whatever, or they're in trouble. Kind of, yeah.
I would be okay if he's the new River. Like if Jack is the new River and comes in and
I still want River back.
If next year's New Year special, and I'm happy that they're doing the New Year specials and not the Christmas specials. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if next year's Christmas special is New Year special, sorry, next year's New Year special is the sister wives of the Doctor or whatever to kind of so we have Jodie and we have Jodie as 13th Doctor and River. Like it would just be kind of fun to do that kind of story arc and stuff. I don't know how they're going to do that. We're sitting on the big reveal that happened at the end. Both Ryan and Graham have left the TARDIS.
Yep.
Bradley Walsh and Tossin Cole have both left the show. We spent a lot of time talking last year about one or two or all of them leaving at some point in time.
It really, like, Ryan specifically kind of gave the feels that he was gonna leave, right? Yeah. Ryan and Yaz too, but Yaz kind of went the other way, right? She kind of hardcore bit into this is and he went the other way. Graham, like from everything I was telling him, from everything that I kept seeing online, and I was not specifically looking, it just kept popping up in when
you're members of multiple Doctor Who.
Well, no, I mean most
pages.
of my Who groups were okay, but it was like in my news feeds.
Yeah.
You know, the big shocker, Graham leaves, you know, Doctor Who, and I'm like, I don't want to know that.
Yeah.
So everything I saw kept referring to Graham, and I didn't know that it was going to be both of them. And then, you know, you're watching the show, and it's very much Ryan the whole way.
Yeah.
He's like, kind of not happy and kind of just.
It wasn't. You might be right with him not being happy, but I don't think it was him being happy that not being happy. I don't think it was him not being happy. I think he just moved on from his time with the Doctor, and they made a really good effort of saying, you know, he's grown the most of anyone else on the show. Now, Graham is the next one.
He still can't ride a bike.
He
though.
still can't ride a bike. But he's grown the most, and he actually says, I want to stay and protect my home,
Yeah.
Earth.
Yeah.
And instead of going off and running around the universe with the Doctor, he wants to stay. I appreciate that because that leaves the door open to come back.
Right.
And that's the one thing that we really haven't had in this particular run with this particular Doctor is the Earth-based companion.
Right.
We had Jackie, and we had I always want to call him Walter.
Donna's grandfather.
Yeah, I always want to call him Walter, and I know that's not right.
Yeah.
But we always seem to have at least some kind of home version, home companion or whatever.
Yeah,
and I really feel like we need that. And so I thought it was going to be Graham's wife from the first episode that she stayed, and then they killed her off.
And then they killed her off immediately, and you were like, wait, that was supposed to be our...
But I found it interesting. We talked about this after the episode. I had seen some stuff. Again, it pops up when you're floating around that they were filming before this newest lockdown in the UK for the new series, and it was Yaz and the Doctor running around together, and none of the boys were there.
Right.
And so I didn't necessarily want to know that, but we kind of have felt with 3 companions, at least one of them was going to go. Like 3 seemed too much, a lot.
Yeah, and
because you can't really focus on anybody's one story
or the connection between them and the Doctor.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's always kind of diluted, and you never seem to like get all 4 of them going off and doing something specifically together. They're always splitting up and going and doing something in pairs, or the companions and then the Doctor.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think back. I'm sure if I'm wrong, somebody will put it in the comments, but I don't think, I know that there were 2 several times in the original Doctors, but I don't ever recall there being 3. So I think that was just...
There was story arcs where there was 3 people in the TARDIS, but not a continuous like...
I don't think 3 companions.
3 companions. I don't think continuously, like on a week by week basis, there was 2.
Yeah.
And I, as much as I loved having the 3 of them in there, and they all kind of were a different, one was the warrior, and one was the heart, and one was the logic, and like it made a lot of sense and stuff. But what it came down to is, if we have an hour-long episode, if we spend 15 minutes setting up the plot and 15 minutes to wrap the plot up, you have a half an hour. That means 10 minutes with each character. Right. And, oh, by the way, you need to have some kind of emotional connection to the characters that you're introducing in the actual episode.
Right.
And so you were losing out on a lot of like, the reason that we loved Rose so much, and the reason we loved Rory and Amy so much, is because their emotional connection directly with the Doctor,
right?
And Clara with Capaldi's Doctor, like there was an emotional connection there, and there just hasn't been as strong as an emotional connection there,
right,
with the 3 of them there. And
I think this gives opportunity. So another bombshell, if you stuck around for the after credits, that there's gonna be a new companion. I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I want just Yaz and the Doctor to run around for a bit, and the biggest reason is because the companions have always been either a guy and a girl and the Doctor, who was male,
right,
or a girl and the Doctor, who was male. I don't recall ever there being a male companion solely with the Doctor. Now we have a female Doctor, and we have the opportunity for a female companion, for them to go do, and it's not necessarily that they're both female, although that's awesome, just people were always trying to make a romantic connection between the
Yeah.
Doctor and the companion,
Yeah.
especially in the newer series.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
They didn't necessarily do it with Capaldi, but they
There was a little bit.
a little bit with Clara, but they made a an obvious choice with Bill. Like that was one of the first things that Bill did before they
Right.
like started going off.
Hi, by the way, I'm gay.
I'm gay. I just want to go and hang out with you. Like,
Right.
and so that kind of conversation. But yes, you're right. Like, there's always been that kind of false sexual tension.
Yeah.
Really,
Well, and it's just been more fan based. I mean, there was a little bit Rose and Tennant. There was, but that was kind of the first time that
And
there
that
was
was
actually
but that was they used that as a story point.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So, I just would like to have them go off and do some stuff for a while.
I've come around on trusting Chibnall, who's the showrunner right now, especially with the episodes that he writes. Like as soon as Chibnall's name came up in this one, I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, this is gonna be fun."
Yeah.
and I'm gonna like it.
Yeah.
So I'm trusting Chibnall right now to give them space to breathe.
Yeah.
Give Yaz and the Doctor to breathe. And then bring in John Bishop, the stand-up comedian. He's done some acting and stuff like that, but we were reading some stuff.
Mostly a UK.
UK guy. I know we've
Shows.
watched stuff with him, stand-up stuff. But, again, we're in the States, and so a lot of stand-up British humor, comedy, at least with stand-up comedy, we have to go search out.
Right.
It doesn't like naturally just fall in our lap like it does here with like Bert and John Caparello and
Yeah.
Mark Ellis and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
so we know who he is. I just find it interesting that he's kind of going to be like a handyman. Like the way they introduce him is he's kind of like a handyman
Yeah.
kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's Dan. He's a former like I just find it interesting that he's. They're already saying he's like and a couple articles we read really quick before we started this, like Chibnall has been talking to John and saying we're writing this role specifically for you.
Yeah.
And so it's going to have his humor, it's going to have his kind of cadence to it writing wise. But I find it interesting. He's kind of coming off as the burly kind of the burly guy, so I'm wondering if they're gonna play into the you girls need help or stuff, and I hope they don't. Like I want Yaz is the warrior of the three of them. She was the one who was jumping into the fight. She was in this episode specifically. She was the one who was still trying to find the Doctor after 10 months.
Yeah.
And
as soon as Jack was like, "I'm gonna go do this," she's like, "I want to come with you."
Yeah. And so I want, like you said, I want the Doctor and Yaz to kind of have their moment to breathe, and then bring him in as the Rory comic relief who evolves into something else as they go along.
Yeah.
But I just find it really interesting that they're like jumping right on, like it's coming, like boom, like
Yeah, I found that.
we just lost two, but by the way, you're getting a new one.
Yeah.
Like, it was very interesting.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how I feel about it yet.
I don't know either. I think a lot of it's going to depend on like when we get the trailer and kind of get a feel of what they're doing with Yaz and the Doctor and stuff.
Yeah.
This episode we will watch. This is going to be into the mix of things. Hopefully without all the commercials, because it just like really weird flow with the commercials. Like they built up to a scene. And then they go to commercial, and they're still building up. But it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
But I liked the Dalek on Dalek battle. That was really cool. I actually liked the new design of the new Daleks. We haven't talked about that. It was shot really cinematically, so like it was a lot of big panning shots. More than once, they showed them in the time. Circuits of time, whatever, vortex whatever.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really kind of an interesting thing. I don't.
So you said, go ahead.
I just don't remember them doing that in the shows. They do it like in the intros, but in the shows themselves, I don't.
Yeah, I think
they've
have a
done
couple
it.
times.
They've done it a couple times, but
so you said you wanted to touch on the Christmas episode earlier.
So the a bunch of my favorite episodes are the Christmas episodes. Husbands of River Song, and the one we just watched the other day. What is it called? Where the governor from The Walking Dead thinks he's the doctor and he's fighting the Cybermen, and the one with Nick Frost as Santa Claus. I've kind of come around on that one. Dr. Mysterio, I wasn't Super Mysterio, whatever it was. But I'm glad that they kind of got away from the Christmas one, because they always had to be like Christmas themed.
Yeah.
And with the New Year's stuff, you can throw it in as it's New Year's. They did that in this episode. They played with, it's been 10 months since we last saw them all together when the doctor got kidnapped. You can't tell me that she wasn't kidnapped. And that, Happy New Year. So you have all that kind of conversation, but it's not necessarily wrapped up in the ball of the holiday.
Right. It's more just a longer episode to tide you over until the next.
You can have them
series.
be standalone, like this is like the Day of the Doctor,
or a bridge, right? A bridge from last season series, whatever, to the next season series without having to build that in and consume 2 or 3 of your episodes, especially when you only have.
Especially like with
10
ones like Twice
series.
Upon a Time, where Capaldi changes out and becomes the 13th Doctor.
Right.
So that particular episode is a connective tissue to the end of the series with Capaldi. Mm-hmm. You have this Christmas special. It's not really Christmas, so they start in the snow.
And the North Pole
or South Pole, whatever it is. And then that's how we got Bradley's doctor, and how he didn't want to change, and so you can left with Stewart and like anyways, but you can do episodes like that. But I just like that they're moving it away from that holiday, and it gives us something to watch when we are hungover on New Year's Day,
right?
Which is really what it comes down to.
They could do them a little earlier; that'd be okay. But
it's prime time for the East Coast, which apparently only matters.
Right.
Like only the East Coast matters, and so
right.
Which is,
6:00 is. We don't have to wait till 8. They have to wait till 8, but
right.
Noon.
Yeah.
It's not like we're. Well, there is football, I guess. So, just not this year.
I've tried to watch football the last 2 weeks and it sucked. So, any other last thoughts on this episode? We're doing pretty good. Half an hour.
Yeah, sorry.
There was a lot of stuff in this episode,
was.
and I'm sure we missed a bunch of stuff. So,
We did.
If you have thoughts about this episode and our review, reaction to it, let us know in the comments down below. Please be nice. That is a requirement around here. Let us know what you think is going to happen with Dan, who is the new companion. Dan. Hi, Dan. So let us know in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and follow us on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is in the links down below. I can get back on Twitter now. Now it's not going to spoil. See how Twitter is reacting to it. And until next time, Whovians, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.